Okay, well, I think a good place to start is just you guys have booked so much of this tour in sort of smaller venues or theater, club-sized venues. Why does that feel right for the band now?
Well, I think there's sort of this attitude of a hardcore Soundgarden fan that's kind of always been there. And I also think there's kind of an energy that happens in theaters that doesn't happen in arenas that kind of fits almost best for us. Like, we learned early on that we could handle a really big stage, inside, outside, and it was kind of great, and we were sort of suited for it. But on the other hand, our music is kind of dark, and there's a sort of dark intimacy that works really well in smaller places. And so it was kind of the decision to, like, let's take this tour and this new album out to places where it's not like a come one, come all sort of feeding frenzy, but focus on the hardcore fans that have been following us all this time. And so that's why we did it. And then having said that, it's a lot of young people in the audience, a lot. So, it's interesting.
So now that you've completed a tour in this size of room, is that working, or will you go back to larger venues?
At some point, we'll go back to larger venues, I think. Yeah, one thing that it does is if you play a theater like in the Wiltern here in Los Angeles, where this is 3 nights in a row. If you're a band on tour and you're like trying to make money, it makes much more sense to play one big place and then move on, and then you can do a lot more places. And for my money, it's more fun to do 3 nights in a smaller place. But at the end of the day, particularly as in a bad economy with costs don't get lower, even though the economy's bad, it's higher, and it's like you want to bring your show and your music to as many people as you can. So at some point, I think we'll open it up and play bigger places.
Prior to these 3 shows, had you guys played the Wiltern before?
I have personally. I don't think Soundgarden did. But I also have a really bad memory for that kind of thing. Like, I'm kind of in the moment, at least in that way. Performance on stage in the moment, kind of doing that. There are places that kind of stand out, but to me, like, the last 25 years of touring is kind of a blur, and I remember things like, like a single instance, seeing somebody die in front of me, which happened once. They brought him back to life, so I can say it on TV. It's okay. It ended happily. It was okay. Things like that. But the Wiltern's a good example of a great theater for what we do. It sounds good. It's older. It feels like an event space to me. It feels like a space where you can come in and feel like you've seen a rock concert, not like you've been in a club, but it's not the Enormo Dome where everything's echoing and it's just really a sports arena and it's not made for performances or music, really. The Wiltern's great.
When you're in that moment, how much does the space sort of dictate the kind of performance you're able to give?
I'm not sure. I think it's the people. And I think that that's always going to be the case for me. I think like a beautiful environment or a crazy environment or, we played CBGB's 4 times. If you went into, there was no dressing room, and the men's room at least, it just had a toilet coming out of the wall with no toilet seat, nothing around it. And, we've gone from there to playing like lavish, beautiful, expensive, lush venues with amazing sound systems and legendary outdoor places like Red Rocks and Joe Robbie Stadium and everything in between. And none of that, Wembley, none of that is going to take precedence over what the feeling is from the audience and the faces that you see, because they're right there. And they're they're kind of reacting to you, and you're reacting to them, and that sort of emotional kind of reaction, and it sort of takes off on its own. And that's the biggest thing. Then it doesn't matter where you are. It could be 1,000 people or 100,000 people. The feeling inside me or any performer is going to be just the same. It's not going to be bigger because there's more people. Not to me. Maybe to some people.
When you were writing the new album, were you thinking about the live performance or how these songs would translate?
Classically, I have thought that. On this album, I guess because we hadn't toured in so long, that wasn't the first thing on my mind. And I don't think that I really understood how different the new material is to previous albums until we started integrating it into the set list. And just even in the context of rehearsal, like, playing 5 new songs and then moving back to the older ones, it was like, wow, this is actually really different. This is, it's a bigger jump than I had ever thought about. And since then, obviously, I think about it, but there's been times in my career when I've thought, in terms of sitting and writing songs, like, God, it would be really helpful to the live show if we had something that felt like X. For the most part, though, we write songs kind of one song at a time, and it's based on the inspiration and the idea. We are the furthest that you can get from a band that's conceptually driven. I don't think we've ever had a meeting where we sat down and said, let's discuss the direction of the new album. What would we all like it to be? Never once have we done that. We have 4 guys, all with musical ideas that come in. We show each other those ideas, we start working on them, and then that's it. It's off to the races. So
when it came time to make a set list for this tour, how did you create cohesion between those old songs and the new ones?
It's kind of common sense, You're in a rehearsal room, you're playing them in a row, you're kind of, what the tempos are doing. We have like 12 or 14 different guitar tunings. That's always kind of something that happens. You don't want to be changing the guitar on every single song, so we try to put some of those in a group, that kind of thing. And then if that doesn't work, we will separate them, but I don't know if that's that challenging. And then you come out the first time with whatever that set list is and with those new songs integrated. And then over the course of a few nights, you learn more as you see people react to it.
You were saying there were a lot of new or young fans in the crowd.
A lot.
What are they reacting to the most?
I can't say that it's necessarily different. And I would compare it to myself as a young teenager. My hobby became and my passion became finding somewhat obscure records. Like as an early teen, I was not a fan of the Rolling Stones. I was not a fan of Led Zeppelin. I was not a fan of a lot of bands that I love now, because they were on the radio all the time. I heard it all. It wasn't special to me. Anyone could have it and anyone could hear it. So I was more interested in obscure things that if I could sit and listen to and then play for my friends, and they would have never heard it before. And I could sit in my room and listen to it, and it would always be new. I didn't know the words already because I heard it on the radio 1,000 times. So I think that sort of holds true with young Soundgarden fans, because I see them kind of singing along to lyrics from albums that came out 23, 25 years ago. And that's because they've discovered it and went and bought the record and listened to it. And it's that sort of, I think it's that journey of discovery also that kind of makes it theirs. And a young person's relationship to music is completely different. It's a badge. It's the outfit you wear. It's the group that you have decided to either reject or to join. or reject everything. It's how you separate yourself from everyone else. And what makes me excited is to see young people that know a lot of these old songs and realize that they're doing what I did as a teenager with our music, and that's the whole point.
Do you feel like there's one song each night that feels like the emotional center to the set list, or something that the set revolves around?
I think as soon as you feel like there's like a song that is kind of always coming across energetically and emotionally the same, then it changes. Like that sort of betrays you. Like you think you know what the songs do and what impact they have on the audience night after night, and you can count on that, and it's just not true. Not at least not for me. It's always evolving, and I also think, and Soundgarden is really very good at this. As we tour and as we play, songs evolve live. I don't know if it's just out of almost, I hate to say it, but it's out of boredom. If you played a song in front of an audience 30 times in a row, you start to approach it differently and you find new things about it. And oftentimes, my least favorite songs live become my favorite songs live because there was something about not loving to play it that bothered me. So I figured out some way to approach it that I did love, and then it changed. We put out an album, a live album, that is a bunch of songs taken from a West Coast tour that we did in 1996 called Live on I-5, and we had a truck out on the road recording it, analog to tape, and we had actually forgotten we had those tapes. We just discovered them, and having never heard them, it was amazing to listen to the live performances of all that stuff because I don't remember any of what we were doing to those songs. We were changing them kind of dramatically, and we don't play them like that now. And it's also exciting because all of the brand new songs, or even songs that we're playing now from our catalog that we actually have never really toured with, they're going through the live metamorphosis and changing every day and becoming something new and evolving. They're living things. And as they evolve, they don't sort of reach a finish line. They keep evolving.
Seeing that you guys are a rock band that have been around for so long, how do you feel about the state of rock music now, and where do you see it going?
I don't know. I mean, I think there's always rock music. I don't think anybody can really sit here and articulately tell you what rock music is and have that actually be true to everyone. And I also get into a lot of conversations with people about rock in terms of shouldn't it be the most successful musical genre, and I've never felt that. I've always felt like rock music is, to a degree, for the people that don't necessarily have a voice or aren't necessarily accepted or successful at other things in life as a young person. And it could be a family issue. It could be I'm not good at school. It could be I'm not good at sports. It could be this is how I want to identify with myself and my own feelings. It's a different thing. And that's not about mass production or mass appeal. It's not. I'm never going to sort of beat the punk rock Bible or the rock and roll Bible and say everyone in the world should like this more. I think rock is something that you fight for. It's kind of it's like a right and a privilege, and it's rocking because it's not like everything else. It's not what the Everly Brothers was when it was coming out of the TV. So, the more obscure it gets, the more likely people are going to find really good music to listen to.